It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley. As we move into a Wednesday, Gary, what's happening?
You know, I slept during a significant portion of the debate. I caught up afterwards, but when I woke up, the two things that I saw after the debate. Oh, by the way, good morning and all that other crap.
Hello,
there,
greetings,
morning,
and niceties and all that.
Greetings and salutations.
Yeah.
What a beautiful day for a ball game.
Right.
Let's play two.
Come on.
Now, who was that?
I don't know.
George Costanza. Seinfeld.
Yeah. All
right. Good morning, everybody. It's just, it was easy to prepare for the show today because when I woke up and I saw, number one, that Meghan McCain was, posted on X that, Vance was cleaning up with it and then said, as you know, I'm not a Vance fan. And then Bill Kristol, when Bill Kristol posted and said, that, and I'm paraphrasing here, your candidate didn't do well when all of the allies said, hey, look, remember, vice presidential debates don't matter.
Yeah.
When that came out of Bill Kristol, the never-Trumper that he is, like, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. It wasn't good. It just so happened. I think I planted the seed in my mind that the debate was on, and I woke up around 30 minutes before the debate. I was like, well, okay, I guess we're awake, and so turned on the debate. The good news is I was able to get sleep earlier in the day, which is rare, so that kind of worked out. I wanted to nod off it at times during the debate. Actually, there were things that were the first thing that you look at is body language. And with Tim Walz, it's really horrible. By the way, congratulations to CBS News for launching their Tim Walz Debate Assistance Program. It's brand new, and I think that went well or went as intended. But the nervousness and the kind of scattered thing, and then he looked, not only was he making notes, he looked like he was desperate to remember what was just said and making them quickly. There's a difference between making notes, looking down, making a few notes, and then, looked like he was trying to write a check because his lights had just been cut off. You know what I mean? Come on, hurry, let's get this back on. He really came off as totally unprepared, and that's going to be the case when you have very little experience in front of the media. The biggest takeaway for me wasn't, wow, this guy, Tim Walz, wants to be vice president. It was, wow, this guy is a governor?
I know. Well, I've said that a lot. I've thought that so much, before the debate.
He comes off as a child. I don't know how many flubs, but forget the flubs for a moment. The lies, just repeated over and over and over again. Was J.D. Vance the bulldog? Nope. And it was clear that the tactic was going to be he wasn't going to be a bulldog. It was, I think, still a great performance by J.D. Vance on the issues and getting those across.
I understand what you mean when you say he wasn't a bulldog, but in a way, he's always been a bulldog for the Trump campaign.
Oh yeah.
I mean not in the way that we normally talk about that you have to be louder or anything like that, because that's not the case with him. You had even his worst enemies say, well, he came across as reasonable. Well, that's because he is.
Yeah.
Right. That's because he is reasonable. Mm-hmm. You've just set the narrative that he isn't based on nothing.
Right.
But no, he's He's a reasonable guy, but I think that because he articulates, he is of presidents and vice presidents. Somebody tell me of a better debate performance.
No, very calm,
right.
cool, and collect, and which is exactly what you want on a stage.
And
because the problem with going into bulldog mode or looking reactive, really, it wouldn't be bulldog mode. It's looking reactive. It looks like you're on the ropes when that happens.
Well, that's the thing. He's never on the ropes, and he's always very confident to say, that. And we'll get to the point, which I thought there were two big points, at least for me. Now, the problem is how I watched the debate, because I woke up. I watched the last part, then watched the beginning part of it. Mm-hmm. So I didn't watch it the same way everybody else did. But it really doesn't matter to me, because all I care about is the substance. And look, my mind's already made up. My mind's made up, and it's based on, a very, very specific issue. And that, for me, is an overwhelming issue, and that's that we need to stop the weaponization of government.
Right.
Everything else comes secondary. Yeah. I saw some conservatives saying, well, I mean, you got both parties now, basically big government parties. We'll deal with that when they get in.
Yeah.
We'll deal with that when they get in. We'll deal with the economics, but the wanting of the Democrats to dismantle the Constitution and seeing what they have done with the weaponization of government, that has to stop. I'm not saying that Trump can stop it, but he can pause it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that's, and so that's where we are. That's if there's any desperation I feel, that's the desperation. We need to stop the weaponization of government now. We at least need to pause it. We need to, and I don't know what Trump can do to get rid of the bureaucracy that is so established inside the government that is absolutely still today and will be anti-Trump. That's going to be a challenge for him, but we'll deal with that when that happens. Mm-hmm. First, you've got to get into office. But I think that this was something where I went, okay, he played right into the stereotype. This is Walz being asked about why he lied about being in Hong Kong during the Tiananmen Square massacre.
All right.
Okay, here we go. We're going to play this audio cut. Thanks. Okay, here we go. Right.
Governor Walz, you said you were in Hong Kong during the deadly Tiananmen Square protests in the spring of 1989. But Minnesota Public Radio and other media outlets are reporting that you actually didn't travel to Asia until August of that year. Can you explain that discrepancy?
Yeah, well, and to the folks out there who didn't get at the top of this, look, I grew up in small rural Nebraska, town of 400, town that you rode your bike with your buddies till the streetlights come on, and I'm proud of that service. I joined the National Guard at 17.
Done right there. It's over. Right there. Because that's become the that's the stereotype of the campaign.
Yep.
Don't answer a question, talk about how you grew up.
Yep.
And so to lead with that instead of being direct, I think the public picks up and says, well, okay, that's BS. Oh, the other thing is, when I woke up, I saw Frank Luntz, and it was halfway through, it was 10-3. And I think somebody else was undecided or whatever, but by the end, it was 12-2 that Vance won, and only 5 were leaning towards Vance.
Yeah.
Trump. It could be Trump and Vance. Only 5, and it was 12-2 after. And that's the thing that matters. The favorability stuff doesn't matter. It's again, and it doesn't matter what I think. Doesn't matter what I think who won or who you think won. It does matter when you have liberals believing that Vance won. But what only matters is the small amount of undecided voters out there.
Yeah, which I think there are very few, if any. I think really the decision that if they're undecided about something, it's whether or not they're actually going to vote. You don't have much of moving a needle here, but you do have a further demonstration as to what the Harris-Walz campaign is, and that's important in that if you needed confirmation, if for some reason you haven't been paying close attention, it's important because I think the takeaway really is, or the effect is quite possibly, and I think maybe even likely, that you don't open the door, which is what you hope to do, change hearts and minds, to someone voting for you. You've actually confirmed some things and closed the door. And that's a problem. That's a problem for a campaign that has been running from the media. And tonight, this is what you get. A guy that looks like he's never been on camera, scrambling, looking nervous for at least the first hour of the debate. And quite frankly, I watched it all the way through to the end. A lot of people were saying, well, toward the end, he was better. Actually, I don't think so. I think his body language showed that he was not in a good place confidence-wise, and there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that because he's part of a campaign whose nominee has no confidence in herself, and she picked a guy who has very little confidence in himself and has to lie about a number of things and has for years. That's a problem.
I think that I wouldn't want to be in Walz's shoes,
right?
And the reason is, I know what he wants to say. He wants to be as liberal as he possibly can. I think the toughest thing in a debate is to actually take a number of major positions that you actually are passionately against.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think that if I went on the air, if every day, because you talk about why won't they do interviews? Well, if I went on the air, you went on the air every day promoting what we actually don't believe. And I did that a couple of times when I was a local talk show host on April Fool's Day. You know, I'd come on and take radical leftist positions, and people would call up going, shut up, you're not doing very well at this at all on April Fool's. You know, everybody picked up on it immediately.
Right. Yeah.
And I started laughing about, I don't know, about maybe if I started the show, it probably would have been a, 11-minute monologue, something like that. And by 5 minutes in, I was laughing, saying, I'm not pulling this off, am I?
Right.
Because you can't do it with any confidence. And that's one of the biggest problems is the fact that it's not that they can't speak. It's that they cannot handle, and they know they can't handle, cross-examination on the positions that they actually hold, or they actually don't believe in the positions that they flip-flopped on.
And the liberal activists that would be, for the majority of the time, be asking those questions want them to own those liberal positions, and they're not doing it. That's another problem. They can't effectively lie. They're not getting away with the lie of positioning themselves as more like Trump. And furthermore, the liberal left absolutely does not want them to lie. They want them to own their liberal positions, including the liberal activists in the media. You see where they are right now. These are angry liberals. George Stephanopoulos, Kristen Welker, all of these people are angry. They're having a debate. If a Republican or conservative is sitting across from them, they're not doing an interview. They're debating, and they get angry when they're shut down. They get angry when they're proven wrong. They get angry when they're owned on their own show. This is who they are, and they're angry that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz aren't out there owning their extreme liberal views. They believe the liberal, the hardcore liberal believes that the ideas they believe in are true and good. They think that way. It's hard for us to think how they think, but they actually believe in those ideas and want to promote those ideas. And they're wondering why the hell Kamala Harris can't do that. And then the rest of the world is looking at her, or the rest of the country, the voter base is looking at her and Tim Walz. Why are you having to lie? Why are you lying to be more like Trump? And why won't you talk to the media? Well, you saw it tonight. That wasn't stage fright. That was media fright.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you can't overcome that when you can't own what you believe. When you believe coming out and owning it would destroy your campaign.
yeah. And that's a tough position to be in. But they created their positions, and Walz accepted it going in. So
Yep.
I don't feel any sympathy.
No.
I'm just stating, that's what happens when you have to go and debate on positions that you've taken that you don't actually believe.
Exactly.
Or the fact that that the majority of Americans, when you try to sell the far left, don't agree with it.
Right.
And then you have somebody who's a strong debater there. And we'll get into the moderators, because that was another highlight. I think that looked really bad when they cut J.D. Vance off. Chris Cuomo, as liberal as you can get on News Nation, was saying Vance was right on this, and they cut off his mic.
Exactly.
And it was just like, I thought that was a very telling moment. And I think that was another huge, huge moment.
Yeah.
But, we'll get into all the comments from everybody in the media, because it's like, wow, a couple of meltdowns on MSNBC over this. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
It's going to be entertaining.
Yeah, it is.
We have an entertaining show ahead.
We do.
Whoever says politics is boring, then you're not paying attention.
You're not doing it right.
There is nothing more entertaining in America today than the left trying to explain their positions in 2024 when they know what their positions are, but they've taken positions they don't believe in.
Right.
866-90 Red Eye.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. As the seasons change, so does truck maintenance. Cold weather can affect everything from your batteries and air brake system to tire inflation and fuel lines. Here's a maintenance tip to help make sure your rig is ready when winter comes knocking. When water and moisture build in your air brake system in the dead of winter, it will almost certainly freeze and turn to ice, which can damage valves, air dryers, and other air system components. Be sure to inspect your system for any air leaks and to confirm the system is receiving a clear air supply. Check and drain your air tanks daily to keep water, contaminants, and corrosion at bay. Find a professional service center near you to learn more about winterizing your truck or to have your air brake system inspected today.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right, you ready for this?
Okay.
We've got so many audio cuts on this. I'm going through this, like more audio cuts and more audio cuts and more audio cuts. We may not be able to talk, but we will. But here's Jen Psaki on post-debate advice for Kamala Harris, what she should do with Tim Walz.
All right.
But coming out of it, I hope that they free Tim Walz and put him out there and let him be rusty at times and make mistakes and hug football players and cry and be funny sometimes. That's the magic. That's why he's on the ticket. But
What? What?
I understand why you put him on the ticket. What I needed was a man to cry. I've got to vote for him. We need a man who will cry.
We need him to make mistakes. Okay, he's already doing that. He accomplished that. Wow.
There's no crying in the executive branch.
It's just desperate.
My God.
Find something. Find something and go with it.
We need a crier.
Yeah, why not?
The show that never stops. Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Yeah, here was another case, and this goes to coaching, which we'll get to here in just a little bit. We've been having the discussion off the air, but this was the question about from the CBS radical leftist political activist on the Wharton School, telling Walz that their proposal will increase the nation's deficit by $1.2 trillion. Okay,
Yeah.
Now listen to his answer.
All right.
Just the beginning of his answer.
Right, yeah.
Because once he starts, you turn it off. Because
Yeah.
he does the exact same thing they should not be doing, which has become a meme.
The Wharton School says your proposals will increase the nation's deficit by $1.2 trillion. How would you pay for that without ballooning the deficit? Governor, I'll give you 2 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. And Kamala Harris and I do believe in the middle class because that's where we come from. We both grew up in that. We understand. So
as soon as you do that, the middle class thing, that's become a meme. That's like when you had Dana Carvey do Biden the other day.
Yeah.
And what's the phrase that he
And here's the thing. And by the way.
and here's the thing. And every time he said, by the way.
Yeah.
I was amazed. I was shocked that the audience laughed so hard at that, which means they understand when he uses the same phrase over and over again.
When he did George H.W. Bush, it was, not going to do it. And then he did Perot, and it was, you see, Larry?
Yeah.
And that's, we're talking
Larry, yeah.
catchphrases. And now that became, it's going to quickly, if it's not already a catchphrase. And it is for a reason. As you point out, the audience is laughing for a reason because they see it. It's not just it goes beyond being a crutch. But this is a crutch for them, and they're being coached to use it. By now, they should have been coached. He should have been coached to, all right, don't walk into the whole middle class thing. You're being mocked endlessly for that. Just avoid that. Don't say it. If you want to use the words humble background, that's one thing, but try not to do that. Well, no, he's being coached and was clearly coached to keep using it, which shows to me that there's no one with their campaign that has a clue. How you don't see that as being this huge red flag for people, this meme that is where it's just the mocking is endless. I don't know. I really don't know how you look at, tonight and say, no, they're on point in any direction. It's just weird watching it. Even Tim Walz said the debate was weird. Yeah, you're right, dude. It is. I mean,
I'm glad you used the proper language there.
Yeah. Dude?
You said dude.
Yeah.
Because remember, as we brought up yesterday with Walz, he's part of the white dudes, not white men. They don't want to say white men. They specifically said dudes.
Well,
you're a dude, but not a man.
Somebody was doing, someone was live posting on X during the debate. I forget who it was, but they made the point that Tim Walz looks like he's basically, the look on his face is like, seriously, bro, seriously, dude. And it comes off as someone who's not capable of authority. But beyond that, someone who's not confident. And that wasn't just avoiding the question. They're not just trying to avoid the question here. They're creating moments that are just cringe, and they're doing it repeatedly, and they've clearly been coached to do it. Both Walz and Kamala Harris. I don't know how you don't see that as being a problem. In fact, you see it as being a positive for the campaign to the point that you coach him to keep doing it.
It's so bad right now. I want to play the audio cut again because I don't think we've explored it enough.
Yeah.
I just realized I've got to go back to the Jen Psaki comment. You and I got into
All right.
discussion at the bottom of the hour, but this is the advice she has now for the Harris campaign when it comes to Walz.
But coming out of it, I hope that they free Tim Walz and put him out there and let him be rusty at times and make mistakes and hug football players and cry and be funny sometimes. That's the magic. That's why he's on the ticket.
That's the magic?
Free Tim Walz and let him cry.
Yeah. Let him make mistakes.
I don't.
Let him lie about China.
Well,
know.
But that's one thing. The lies are one thing. She's giving the advice that a candidate for vice president, what will help him and bring back the magic is if he cries.
Yeah.
I can't get over that. This is how absolutely lost, and this goes back to her interview the other day with Emhoff when she was saying that, you bring a new type of masculinity. Oh, I did ask my father because I had posted that a couple of days ago. I posted that on Facebook about the whole thing about Emhoff and her interview about a new form of masculinity. And I told my dad, I talked to my 98-and-a-half-year-old dad now, and I told him, I said, I forgot to tell you, I posted something on X. And I said, I've got to ask my father whether he senses any BS in this. And what this one interviewer said to Walz was, you bring forth a new type of masculinity. He started laughing right when I got to that point. I said, so it is BS? He goes, oh, yeah, that opening line is absolute BS. I said, well, everybody agreed that you would call it BS.
Yeah.
But when you think about, this whole thing, this obsession, and this goes back to the obsession that they've had of trying to define, and this is the dumbest thing that we have to talk about, but we're responding to them. None of these are our opinions at all. I don't sit there and I go, okay, I'm going to judge your masculinity.
Right.
Those thoughts never get into my mind.
Right.
I know you think about it with me, though. That's why you used to say that. That's why you used to lie and used to say I was figure skating instead of doing my hockey work.
Have you or have you never once been on the ice with a figure skater?
Yes, but I was doing a hockey workout.
That was my only point.
But it was a hockey
We
workout.
want to move on to the next topic.
You know the best thing.
I'm a CBS moderator right now. I just want to move on to the next topic, Mr. McNamara.
You know the best
You've
thing
answered the question.
Remember that time when I came in after I did my skating workout and I had to admit to you that so I was skating and everything else, and I think I'm a pretty good skater, and one of the best figure skaters are always out there on the ice when I was doing it. Came up and said,
of course they are.
Gave me instructions of how to skate better for hockey, and you just had the best time that night with me.
Of course.
Right. You're like,
right.
What?
I wasn't wrong.
But they're just obsessed with this trying to knock down what they believe is a stereotype that of a man that they disagree with. They haven't fully explained what the stereotype of the new masculinity in a male is, but they want that. She wants it. The campaign wanted it. And we went back and said, when you look at it, when he first came out, when he first was appointed, like they all are, for Democrats,
right,
in the executive race, the executive branch race, and they put him in the camouflage. He had the hat on, and it's like the gun, and they were out there. The campaign, the Republicans can't handle a Democrat who is a testosterone-laden male who hunts and carries a gun. And then a few weeks later, it was like, well, no, you're we've got the new kind of male out there, the new kind of male. It's not a testosterone-laden male. No, not at all. This is a different kind of masculinity. Could you explain further?
See, this is the major missteps they've made all along the way. Let's come out and show him as masculine. Oh, crap. We canceled masculinity a long time ago and forgot. That's what happened. That's why they changed.
Well, except for the radical transgender movement, where that's absolutely misogynist, but they've tended that's the exception to the rule for them.
Well, if you're a man saying you are a woman, you can be very masculine. And this is the problem that not gone completely. It's just wears different clothes.
Okay, go.
There's the problem though that they have is they keep painting themselves into the corner time and time again. There's no way around what they have created for themselves. Look, in their DEI world, they've walked over and over again. You saw the story about, we haven't touched on it yet, but all the stories that have come out about FEMA and the DEI and attitude and where it's going to this is our primary goal. No, your primary goal is taking care of people in need. If we're going to have this agency, then you're going to take care of people in need and get them the information and what we as a society have decided that they are going to get when they need it. And it's not going to look anything like corporate DEI in the leftist world and shouldn't. It should be get them what they need and get them what they need now. Well, in their DEI world, they've created this politically where they can't even, we talked about the whole internet thing where they have already, Congress has given them billions of dollars to use, and they haven't even broken ground once, not one shovel in the ground, because DEI has painted them into the corner.
Well, and Elon Musk in North Carolina and other areas got that done in a matter of a day.
Yeah, Starlink. And these are things again where they can't move because they've created too many rules for themselves. One of the things you heard J.D. Vance repeat is the word regulations. But it's not just the government regulations. Of course, we hate those. But it's their own rules where they painted themselves into this box. It reminds me of somebody who's built this tiny home, and we'll use a tiny home because liberals love those. They built a tiny home and forgot to create a door. Now they're stuck inside with no tools and no way to get out of it. And that's where they are.
The desperation, that's what, and we'll have more of the desperation that you saw from the left yesterday. That desperation, they don't know where to go. Because if you're somebody like Jen Psaki, who is a radical leftist political activist, and the only thing that you can say is that they need to free him up so he can cry and hug football players, and you believe that's the path to success, you're completely lost. You don't have any idea where to go.
When it comes to identity politics, I didn't see it going that direction.
No, neither did I.
But they're so desperate because they don't know what to do. They came out with, look at him. He's masculine. That's intimidating to conservatives that, oh, crap, we can't say masculine.
Well, the problem is they can't define what a woman is, and they're desperately trying to define what a man is.
Yeah, exactly.
And using the vice presidential nominee on the Democrat side as their test tube case.
Right,
their
exactly.
test case on this whole thing.
Right.
It's not working out too well.
No.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Well, after the debate, Joy Reid's comment was commit violence against Trump. Here we go.
And so I think that the people who want the fist fight are the base of the Democratic Party. Democrats want to see someone get up there and give a knuckle sandwich to Donald Trump. That's what they want.
Wow. All right.
There you go.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, you know how I would have responded? I would have let the violence thing go. Because I think there's a stronger point. How can they give a knuckle? How can Harris or Walz give a knuckle sandwich when they now agree with Trump on all the major issues that Trump has believed in.
Yeah, which issue would they do that?
Right.
Would they deliver that blow on the border? On fracking? Yeah.
So
yeah, that's laughable.
That's the problem. How do you scream at somebody when, as we have said before, Donald Trump has united America on the issues? Because now the Democrats agree with it. We know that's not true. But Joy Reid is asking for the impossible. They can't do that.
They can't
Because
do
on
it.
the major issues, they're lying and claiming they agree with Trump.
Exactly.
Top of the hour news is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here this morning. We'll get back to the debate coverage, but we've got to make sure that we cover what happened yesterday as Iran, attacked Israel directly with hundreds and hundreds of missiles yesterday. I think it was, I heard 180.
Yeah.
Was the last figure that I actually heard, and it was not a good day for the administration at all. And I say that because when John Kirby was asked directly, and I'm trying to find I've got so many audio cuts that I lined up.
Yeah.
I'm searching here for the audio on the audio from. Here it is. This is John Kirby, all right, and it's what he has said back in September of 23 and what he was saying in January of this year. It wasn't him speaking yesterday, but just to show you that they're getting pounded on the fact that this was allowed to happen, and this escalation was allowed to happen because of the enabling of the Biden administration to reverse the sanctions. And I think that's one thing. I forgot who was asked yesterday on it. Somebody in the administration was asked. They said, oh no, Karine Jean-Pierre. By the way, the worst person you could possibly put out when you've got such a serious thing going on here, which this could lead to major escalation. Because the question is now, does this justify Israel taking out every nuclear operation that Iran has? Now that you know they will lob missiles at you, is this the time to do it? We know they'll do it because they've done it before.
Yeah.
And this thing keeps ratcheting up. But what the hell is the United States? Think about this now, because probably in the next couple of days, Congress is going to allocate more money to Israel.
Yeah.
And I bet you see that push from the executive branch. So we've allowed funding for both sides of the war.
Mm-hmm.
And we know Trump had the sanctions, and their Karine Jean-Pierre said that, they didn't lift any sanctions. Of course they did.
Of course they
It's
did.
an absolute lie. And everybody knows it. And now that it's getting closer to home here, because remember, the U.S. military did shoot some missiles at the missiles that take down other missiles. They shot them from ships yesterday.
Right.
And so we're involved in it now.
Yep.
We're involved in it. And Biden's been trying to play both sides of it. As we have said, this is where they're anti-Semites, but they know they can't sell it to the American people. They don't want Israel to win. And we know that because it's been Biden and Harris that bring up the two-state solution. Nobody's negotiating the two-state solution. It's not possible to happen.
The would-be two states aren't asking for a two-state solution.
And we know the policy of Hamas and Hezbollah. How do you have a two-state solution? Okay, we want we agree to a two-state solution. Well, are you going to then take away your goal of eliminating Israel? No. Oh, good. Well, then we've got a great two-state solution.
Right. So we're all in agreement.
I mean, it's insanity that we allowed, excuse me, I don't want to say we, that Biden allowed, I mean, when I said we, I meant the United States, because that's effectively what the policy is, that Trump cut off their oil profits first thing he did when he got in office. Did this. And now the question is, because I think we played this audio cut, we played both these audio cuts, and we played it in January this year when Kirby said, well, we really don't know where the money's going. When he previously before. Let's play it. It's back-to-back. Here we go.
The U.S. will have visibility, and will be able to engage in oversight about where the money was going and for what purpose. If Iran tries to divert the funds, we'll take action, and we'll lock them up again. And there will be sufficient oversight to make sure that the request is valid and that it's going through vendors who we and the Qataris can trust will actually contract for the goods, the medical equipment, the food, whatever it is. The regime doesn't get to touch the money, Peter. Doesn't go to them. They don't get to decide ultimate destination, and they have no direct access to it.
John, Iran made 2 transactions withdrawing from the previously frozen funds in Oman. What were those transactions for?
I don't have the details on that, Jackie. You're gonna have to let me get back to you on that.
Yeah. He's a wholly dishonest person. As his commander-in-chief. They're flat-out liars. And a campaign lie is one thing. As a sitting president and the one person who has the power to cut Iran off, it's unbelievably dangerous. We're in it. We saw this coming. We mentioned it on the air a few days ago. It was clear. Iran was getting ready for its strike. Putting their Ayatollah under heavy security and in hiding. They were clearly going to make a move. And it seems as if, based on their actions recently, it seems as if they're setting up for possibly a long-term war between Iran and Israel. And Israel is in war mode right now. It's not like there has been a long-term ceasefire in place or even a short-term ceasefire and Iran lobs some missiles. Israel knew this was coming. It was inevitable. And we're here, and we're still allowing Iran, to get funds through dealing oil on the open markets. And why that's the case, why that was ever the case, is beyond me. But the lies here, both from Kirby and Karine Jean-Pierre here, are unacceptable. But this is exactly what you get. They're the ones saying misinformation. They're the side saying misinformation should be punishable with jail time.
I know. It is
My
just
gosh. And what would you do with this? These are flat out lies. You're lying to the American people. You're lying to all of our allies who have lost trust in this administration, lost trust in the U.S. after the botched exit of Afghanistan. They don't know what to do. When we talk about you and me, we're sitting here each night. we have no idea what to believe when we're talking Ukraine and Russia or the Middle East or any of it. We have no idea what to believe. We can't trust the propaganda coming out of Russia. We can't trust the propaganda, certainly can't trust the propaganda coming out of Hamas or Hezbollah. But we can't trust our own government to not only tell us the truth, but also do the right thing to save lives by cutting Iran off. Biden is the one man in the world with that power, and flat out refuses to do it.
Two things strategically, that the public knows about. There's more, but what the public knows about is on Afghanistan. Because if you look for Biden, the lowest he ever was in the polls was post that. The lowest polls he ever had. And so the American public understood he lied to the American public about what the generals told him.
Yeah.
And then we know everything else that happened after that, the chain of command that did not protect those people at Abbey Gate or our American soldiers, knowing that they had the snipers had the suicide bomber in their sight.
Right.
And then here with Iran, that's the biggest insanity ever, freeing up their oil money. They can fund Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis, and we'll probably someday find out money went for the missiles too that were shot at Israel.
Yeah.
And the war machine.
Yeah.
But now you're talking about an escalation because Israel is justified now in taking out all their nuclear potential.
Right. Right.
Everything that Obama worked so hard to make sure they got.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's reprehensible when you have the executive branch of the United States that is, and that not only are they working to make the United States and its citizens less secure, but there's a significant portion of America that shrugs their shoulders at it like it's no big deal.
Yep. Yeah. I look away because, it won't affect us as long as we're not looking at it. As long as we're not paying attention to it, we're safe. No, we're not. No, we're not. On top of the fact that we're giving the enemy this kind of control and power, we're also diminishing the trust by our allies in the U.S.
Yeah.
That's a 1-2 punch that is extremely crippling for the U.S. potentially, and it scares the hell out of me. Because you couple that with all of the activists who are out there that with their anti-Semitism, they're pro-Hamas, pro-Hezbollah. The New York Times basically mourning the death of the leader of Hezbollah.
Oh, you see, yeah. Did you see some of the headlines?
Yes. But this is the setting. Those aren't mistakes. This is how they think. So what happens? Remember after 9/11, some people may be too young to remember, but after 9/11, as a nation, we wanted to go after those responsible. You're going to have a significant number of people, not most, but a fairly loud group of people, I'm convinced, praising terrorists if they attack us on American soil again. It will be quite the opposite of 9/11 and the reaction from 9/11.
Well, I was thinking the protests that are, we're going to see again probably on October 7th and after.
Yeah.
Now they're going to add, because they added now, the pro-Hezbollah signs. You saw that in New York City, right?
Yeah.
Pro-Hezbollah, pro-Hamas.
Yeah.
And now expect to see pro-Iran.
Right. Yep.
Christiana Amanpour will be leading that one.
Absolutely.
You saw her
Absolutely.
yesterday. You saw her yesterday. My
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
My God. Just
Yep.
why don't you just join the, I don't know, become part of the Iran supreme leader of, I don't know, cabinet or something. It's just mind-boggling, these people.
It's who they are. It is the silver lining here is that they don't hide how they think.
No, that's a great point. They don't. Yeah. I mean, when they're running
we know
for office,
who they are.
When they're running for office, they do as we see right now.
They try.
They try. What's coming up? We're gonna get to your scene now, and we knew it was going to happen. You're seeing now the media getting ticked off now at the strategy. Apparently, you now have, and there's a number of mainstream media that commented on it yesterday, a narrative coming out. They don't seem to be happy. They think it might have been a mistake for this whole civility and joy kind of campaign.
Yeah.
We'll get to that coming up. 866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Uncompensated detention at docks frustrates drivers of all stripes. If you're an owner-operator, you have at least some control over the matter. Make the subject a standard part of your rate and/or contract negotiations on the front end. You can use your own numbers to calculate an hourly rate to compensate for lost income opportunity, as well as fixed costs, which don't stop when the truck stops. Those two elements of a fair detention rate were deemed appropriate by most of Overdrive's audience almost a decade ago. We've used income, fixed costs, and miles average of our owner-operator business services from ATBS's clients to compute an average $64 an hour detention rate then. And 10 years later, the figure is $83 an hour. Use your own numbers to calculate your rate. A simple conversation with any broker or shipper or your carrier if you're leased about what you're putting in the rate might yield results you don't expect. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right, let's hear some from the liberal media yesterday. All right, here we go. This is Ed Gordon on CBS and their post-debate analysis.
But I think the civility that we saw tonight may be a mistake by Democrats, quite frankly. I talked at the outset of energizing this base. I was just in Ohio, and many Democrats were livid about what's going on in Springfield. I think Walz missed an opportunity to really push the racial insensitivity there. There was a sense of trying to be affable, as John said. And I think what we're going to see from this point on is the civility being laid aside. And as we've said, from this point on, gloves are off, I think.
Well, they may be. I know they are in the media. Let's hear this. Let's hear this now. And this is from MSNBC and Simone Sanders. Here we go.
There were so many niceties on that debate stage tonight. I am just kind of like, well, if you agree so much with J.D. Vance, why should they vote for you? I fully believe that Governor Walz went out there tonight and did what was practiced in debate prep. Did what the strategy was that the team put together. That was not the Governor Walz that I had seen out on the campaign trail. That's not the Governor Walz that I had seen during the Veep stakes, right? That was not the J.D. Vance that I know to be true. I mean, goodness, J.D. Vance was on that stage. He was sorry about Amber Thurman. He was sorry about he was sorry about a lot of stuff. We get things wrong, but do you agree with the policy? And then I just, that's not the Margaret and Nora that I know. Margaret don't do that on Sunday morning. So I just think that I know that there's so many people out there that want normal. They want normalcy. They just want, just be able to just disagree with, you said a lot of things I agree with. This is not a normal election. J.D. Vance is actually not Paul Ryan. And Donald Trump sure as heck is not Mitt Romney. Okay?
They're so desperate to make this so radical.
Yeah, they don't know where to go.
They don't. They needed this to be a night of radicalism. This is exactly what I'm saying. And what I've been, it's been clear now for a few weeks to me that the radical left is upset that Harris and Walz won't own their radicalism.
Yep.
You don't. We need you to be radical on that stage. I'm right about that.
She said that. I am just kind of like, well, if you agree so much with J.D. Vance, why should they vote for you?
Exactly.
We've been talking about how the left is furious
They're
behind the
furious.
scenes.
You're a threat to democracy if you don't download our app, Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Okay, we're going to still play things that came from the liberal media yesterday. This is Jonathan Karl here.
Okay. All right.
Here we go. All right.
You know, but first, David, I got to say, I think that Walz did seem unsteady. And frankly, what I saw in Walz is somebody who has not faced questions on a national stage since he became the Democratic nominee. He was simply out of practice. I mean, I don't know why they've done it, but they've kept him out of the limelight. They've kept him away from reporters. They haven't had him do any interviews. And he was clearly unsteady through much of that debate. And in contrast, J.D. Vance was very smooth. He took the arguments not to Walz. He was very respectful of Walz, took it to Kamala Harris.
That had to kill
Yeah.
Jonathan Karl to say that.
Yeah.
Absolutely
Yeah, it
had
really
to kill
did.
him. I mean, just...
It really had to.
Check his blood pressure.
Exactly. But this is what you're seeing from these activists in the media, in the liberal media. You know, it's like, why won't they just do what they're supposed to do?
Well, that's where Jonathan Karl isn't being honest with you. He knows exactly why they don't want Walz out there. They know exactly why they don't have Harris out there.
Yep.
We all know. Because they can't, and it's not that they can't, give a speech. It's the fact that, number one, they can't explain why they've reversed all of their major positions and agree with Trump. Because everybody knows it's a lie. And number two, they know that they can't promote what they really believe and then be cross-examined on it. And they can't talk about the Biden-Harris administration and be cross-examined on it because they have no answers. That's why, Jonathan Karl. But you knew that already. And that's why a week ago you had, I'm not going to say Jonathan Karl said it, but you had the leftist media coming out and saying, no, she shouldn't do, she shouldn't do any interviews. She shouldn't do any interviews. No, imagery is more important than actually finding out. We know who Donald Trump is, and it's just, and so we don't really need
Stelter, Stephanie Rule, they were basically, no, her words aren't important.
Right.
It's not about the interviews. They were trying to build this. It was a weird set of talking points that they had all picked up on. It was clear that was the road they were going to go down, and they couldn't sell that because again, they're not happy at all. The far left is angry that she won't own her far left positions.
Yep.
They'll be the ones I think you said this a week or two ago. They'll be the ones, if she loses, they'll be the ones screaming, it's because she didn't come out and own her far left views. That's what they'll say.
Yeah.
We saw it when Terry McAuliffe lost in Virginia. We saw it when, a number of the Democrats have lost elections. Well, we need to get out there and be more radical. We need more candidates who are more radical. And she couldn't own her radicalism and blah, 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 blah. They're angry now. Wait and see them if she loses. Wait for them to explode if she loses.
Yeah, you mentioned Stephanie Rule, and I was talking to you in the kitchen that I saw yesterday or the day before, where Vance had come out and was talking about eggs. He was, visiting a place that eggs. He goes, "Oh, my kids eat 14 eggs a day." Obviously exaggerating.
Right.
So she comes out, 14 eggs a day times 7. You know how many eggs that is? And I can't believe that you would feed your... And it's just like, it was hyperbole. Hopefully he'll never say, J.D. Vance will never say, my kids eat like, my kids could eat a horse.
Right. That'd be funny if he showed receipts that they were eating an average of 14 eggs a day. You mentioned during the break for them to go off on that as that's going to be their fact checking. It tells you exactly where we are in this presidential race.
You know how bad it is? Here's the most frequent CBS News fact check that I saw from the debate last night. Every time it's the only one I've seen, and it comes up constantly.
Yeah.
This is how bad it is for the Democrats. During the vice presidential debate, Senator J.D. Vance claimed Vice President Harris became the appointed border czar. CBS News confirmed, rates this as false.
They're still on that. They're still on the border czar thing. Well, she wasn't a border czar per se, blah, 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 blah. For the longest time until they realized, oh, crap, she's going to be the nominee, they were talking about it.
All right, I want to play this here. Doesn't really make sense, but it just shows you the anger on MSNBC. Okay. Here's Nicole Wallace.
All right,
here we go.
All right.
It's the audacity. I agree with you that we're in year 9 and no one knows how to cover the audacity. The audacity is that someone should have said, "Stop it, stop." Are you effing kidding me? And they should have dropped that F-bomb, right? I mean, they should have just. This is the debate. This may be the only chance people have to see the difference.
There you have it.
And we said it would eventually get to this point. Look, we told them.
Yeah.
We said at the very beginning, we said, look, we gave Democrats advice.
Right.
If you try to co-opt all of Donald Trump's major policies, I mean, that's where we came up with Kamaga.
Yep.
And that's because when she started reversing all these positions, the far left, which is the vast majority of the liberal mainstream media, they're far left. They didn't like her switching those positions.
They don't like that at all.
But they sat there and went, okay, if it gets us a victory, because everybody's like going, rah, 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 rah about it here, let's just stay quiet. Now they see the strategy isn't working, and they're furious about it because this is another election, because they feel, well, they shouldn't feel they wanted Biden out because they don't believe Biden can explain their policy correctly. That's why his numbers were so low and why they replaced him, forced him out, Biden out. And that's because even though they were doing what they wanted him to do, because he is by far the most radical leftist president we've never had, ever had, and Harris would be even more, more so. But it didn't matter. He did these liberal things, and he was going to lose. And they can't have that. They want it both ways. They want to promote what they believe, the radicalism that they believe, that the vast majority of the country disagree with. And so that's why they're losing it. They don't know where to go on this. And, last night afterwards is where you saw, here we go. The criticism's going to come in. You need to let Walz and Harris just go crazy and be who they are.
The gloves are off. And that's what you're seeing now. Well, from now on, the gloves are off. Well, says who?
Well, that's a funny thing. They need to take the gloves off. They need to hit Trump in the face. They need to do this. And then Jen Psaki, they need to see Walz cry. It's just like,
well, they just might the night of November 5th.
They don't know where to go. hey, I have an idea for a political party. Why don't you see what the public wants and say, here's where we're going to head?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why don't you enact policies that help the American public instead of hurting the American public? Why? Here's another one. Why didn't you pay attention? Why did you go along with the bull from Yellen and every single Democrat that when the Obama economists told you, not conservatives, when the Obama economists told you, don't do this spending bill, this is going to put inflation over the top? Why did you sit there and live in a delusional world? Because if you lose this coming election, it's because of two things. Number one, inflation. Number two, lying about the border. And then the impact of the border on liberal cities.
Yep.
The immigration policy. That's why you're losing.
Yep.
And so it's tough to be a political party when the vast majority of what you agree, what you believe, the public disagrees with you on that, and then they've seen in action what you do, and you lie about what you have done, and then in order to attempt to appease the middle, you come out and take the most radical positions that you feel the Republicans hold and Donald Trump holds and say, you've always held them, and your way, even though you'd be tougher than Donald Trump, for example, on the border, would be a much better way.
Yeah. I appreciated what J.D. Vance did in his closing statement. It was similar to what former President Trump did in his closing statement in the debate against Kamala Harris. And they summed it up. I believe both of them summed it up as to where we are on the issues. And this is extremely difficult for these far-left activists in these newsrooms to comprehend. They can't. They can't comprehend it. They believe they're right. They believe their positions are correct. They believe that people are stupid, but they believe that if they get the power, they'll be doing the right thing for this country, and they can't, for the life of them, understand why Harris and Walz can't own what they believe. You were saying during the break that MSNBC accusing J.D. Vance of mansplaining.
I have the audio.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Okay,
this is funny.
Okay,
yeah, all right.
Muting powers. And I actually think if you're a woman, that might be the worst moment J.D. Vance had, because he was going to mansplain right over that mute button. He was, and again, I don't pretend to know how everyone will react to this. I think that a lot of women in positions of authority that should command respect just by virtue of that dynamic will see themselves in some dude that disrespected them and talked over. I mean, there was a moment like that with then vice presidential in the Harris-Pence debate where she's like,
Wow. And by the way, are they also saying that he mansplained to
Yeah, we're trying to figure out, is she saying that...
I know both moderators were women.
Right. But
and by the way, women, just to let you know, mansplaining is when a man explains to you how things work.
Yes.
Just so you know, ladies.
Yes.
In a condescending way, as if you didn't know it. That's what that means.
Mansplaining is just a different way to say, hey, I'm a man, I'm right.
Yeah.
Okay, so
yeah.
just so you know that.
And after engaging in mansplaining on the air on a radio program, one should know how to cook their own breakfast.
Yes. You can tell they're lost. They
They
don't
are
know where to go.
completely desperate here.
Because
they really don't, because on one hand, they really want to give, they would love to have given Tim Walz this victory, but they can't.
Well, as
they're struggling to find something.
As Cuomo said, Chris Cuomo, he goes, he was right.
Yeah.
So that's the okay, Vance is right. They won't let him talk. And since he continued to explain why he was correct on it, they shut off his mic, and therefore he's wrong because if women are wrong, you can't correct them.
Right.
Now, we all know that's the truth.
Mm-hmm. Yes, dear.
He should have responded, yes, dear,
Yes,
and
dear.
been the kind of submissive male stereotype that the Democrats are trying to pin on Walz until last night,
Right.
and now they want him to be angrier and let him loose, except Jen Psaki, who
Right.
wants him to cry.
Right.
You can't make this crap up. This is insanity.
So weird. It is so weird.
God.
This is like being on some weird drug sitting inside the writer's room at SNL. And it's like it's like you don't even go home. You're just staying there in this room, and there are new ideas being thrown on the table over and over again. It gets to be ridiculous because they're desperate.
They become a parody of themselves.
They really have.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. You know, we're doomed, as we always say, but it's very entertaining. I mean, sitting here and just, I'm having a blast. Just, we're having a blast listening to all these different audio cuts here, and then getting ready to play them.
Yeah.
We've got a ton more, as it's just. This is where it's changing for the left. You saw the anger last night, and the anger,
Yep.
a lot of the angers. Well, I think most of the angers at Kamala Harris in the campaign.
Yeah.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America. We are Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. He's Eric Harley, talking about the debate last night. This more audio. I mean, I'm sitting here and I'm just going, it's like, well, there's more audio. There's more. This is great. This is great. More analysis. This is Abby Phillips from CNN. Okay. Okay. Here we go. All right.
I think we shouldn't lose track, I think even in the civility, of the fact that J.D. Vance came to this debate to land a bunch of punches, and he did. He landed a lot of punches in between all the niceties and all of that. And the thing that really stood out to me was that Tim Walz did not seem prepared for it.
You see that now the left, as we've played audio cuts here over the last hour from different people, except for Jen Psaki, who believes that you need to let Walz free and have him hug football players and cry.
Right. Yeah.
Everybody. Well, the thing is, the base of the Democratic Party is very radical left. They're the ones that will shout over and over again that Trump and Vance are Hitler.
Yeah.
And so they didn't like the niceties to begin with. You know, it's like you have some on the left that, will sit there and say, well, you don't debate with Hitler. They shouldn't do the debates because you don't debate with Hitler.
Yeah.
We've heard that already.
Yep.
Trump, Vance, you can't come into this restaurant. Trump, Vance, you can't go here.
Right.
Trump, Vance, or Hitler. You don't negotiate with Hitler. You don't. And now they're furious. They're furious that they believe now that the strategy that Harris took of not doing any interviews, not doing any press conferences, and really limiting the interviews until they saw they had to start doing some because I believe of their internal polling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But you've seen the fact that the strategy was, let's bury her. Tim Walz. I thought Tim Walz was going to be out there. I thought they picked somebody who they thought could be out there and talking.
Mm-hmm.
He's been more silent than she is. And then the only thing you get from the Democrat media is the fact that, well, Walz is a role model for a different type of male, which people are listening to that going, what the hell are you talking about? Who the hell cares about that? Where do you stand on the damn issues?
Yeah.
And the left is now furious that the philosophy of number one, trying to be civil and all this joy, the whole joy campaign that they were all behind. Now they don't like the joy campaign.
No.
Now they're upset at the joy campaign.
Gloves off.
And I think they're furious that the Harris campaign decided to co-opt all of Donald Trump's major points that he has long believed, and in some cases tried to make it sound like they were their plan.
Yeah, it's clear to me, and has been for a few weeks now, that they may have been briefly okay with the lying about the positions and even lying to the extent of sounding more like Trump on the issues. But then at some point they realized that's not working, and they believe, as radical leftists, they believe it's because their ideas are better and people will be drawn to their ideas. Now, no one believes that, including the campaign, but they believe that. And they're going to scream if she loses in November. They're going to scream that she should have been more radical. She should have owned her radical views. They're furious right now. You can tell after this debate. Where's the fight? They were waiting. This, by the way, also shows how much they don't believe in Kamala, because they were waiting for him to deliver the gloves off punch. She didn't do it, and they know it in the debate against Donald Trump. And they're waiting for Tim Walz to be the pit bull for their party for this campaign, and he didn't deliver, and they're furious about that. They wanted him to do that. They want this campaign, and you hear it from them. Well, from now on, gloves up. Well, what does that mean? And says who? What indication is there that they're going to be gloves off between now and November 5th? And
on what
makes you believe that that's going to work?
A gloves off on what issue?
Are they going to just all of a sudden go 180, go back to what they actually believe?
Right. But what is the issue that they would go bonkers on?
It would have to be all of them, right?
Well, I'm asking what would be the specific argument for one, and
right.
I don't know what that would be.
Well,
I agree with you on what you said.
Yeah, no, but that's the problem. That's where they are. This is the conundrum that when you're okay with the lies for that short period, then you realize they're not working. You're like, well, no, gloves off. You need to own it. Forget the joy. Someone needs to punch Donald Trump. I mean, this is where they are now. This is, and by the way, typically we don't see that until after they lose on election night. They're furious that it's not working because Kamala Harris can't convince anyone. She's not convincing herself. If she were convinced, if she were confident, you wouldn't be able to stop her from appearing on every media program everywhere and holding press conferences all day long. She's not confident in herself. Tim Walz isn't confident. You saw it on the debate stage last night. Oof. Wow. Someone made the point. He looks so fidgety. Maybe that's because he was restrained from coming out and jumping up and down like he normally does and waving his arms in the air. But it is that nervous energy. It's not stage fright, it's media fright. He's not confident in front of the media because he's not confident in front of the American people. You step outside the blue bubble of his state, it's exactly what we said about Gavin Newsom. It applies also to Kamala Harris. It's one thing when you're a senator from California or a prosecutor or an attorney general or even a governor of a big blue bubble. You step outside that bubble and you have to change your tone and you have to bite your lip because as a radical leftist, you can't own it. And you know you can't own it and win over the American public. The reason they have to lie on the issues to sound more like Trump is because the American people, they know, they see the numbers. That's what the American people want to hear. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it. There would be no purpose for it. This is exactly why they're doing it. They know the American people don't side with their radicalism, but their radical corner wants them to own it and believes that the American people are stupid, and the only reason they don't agree with their radical views is because they haven't been explained enough or by the right people. Forget mansplaining, liberal-splaining. It's a thing.
I'm reading here was a Wall Street Journal that said, let me see, Vance makes a better case for Trump than Trump. Well, he's a better debater.
Yeah.
You know, we said this when the debate was going to happen, and people said, well, Trump's a great debater. No, he's not. He's not. I will say this: the debate against Kamala Harris, I believe he performed far better than he has in the past. But overall grade, not. It's not. He's not the top in his class. Yeah. No, I mean he's.
I would also say that his closing statement, I believe, in my opinion, was a bit stronger. And maybe it's because it came from the man himself.
No,
the debate.
Yeah, that was strong.
Than JD.
I'm just saying that overall,
yeah,
Trump is not a great debater. He doesn't. Mm-hmm. He can't touch.
Right.
I don't know who can touch JD Vance. And frankly, I said this last night that I had never seen when he was going up against Tim Ryan. I never saw those debates. Mm-hmm. And as I said, Tim Ryan. Good God, JD Vance was not my first choice. Mm-hmm. I quickly changed when I saw how he can debate.
Yeah.
How he can, his stick to the talking points. Now, with Trump, again, I haven't seen anybody that can touch J.D. Vance. I just haven't. Mm-hmm. I haven't I can't think. I go back to covering politics for, over 40 years now, and I don't know anybody who was such a crystal clear winner of a debate, slam dunk, bam.
Well, this was my point last night in saying I haven't seen anyone who can disarm J.D. Vance. In fact, it's quite the opposite. J.D. Vance is good at disarming anybody he's talking to if it's in a debate setting, and that's what you saw last night.
And, again, with Trump, I don't care whether he's a good debater or not. I want him because I agree with him on, roughly 70 to 80% of the issues. Mm-hmm. That's why. And in this election, it's only about one thing, the weaponization of government for me. Not that if he becomes president and does something I disagree with, we're not going to comment on it. We will. But for winning this, it's absolutely imperative that we get a pause from the lawfare and the weaponization of government. It's reprehensible. And the people that really wish to change the Constitution of the United States, which is the Democrats. Mm.
Yeah.
And so, but no, Vance did a great job last night, as was expected.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm not surprised by it.
Nope.
Because I've seen enough now, and I went back a while back and looked at some of his debates with Tim Ryan. It was like, whoa. And, of course, I didn't see We might have played a couple of clips of it when it happened, but again, I didn't see the entire debate that happened at that point, and I'm like, wow, he was really good then too.
Yeah.
So yeah. But we got so many audio cuts coming up still from the left and from the right. We've played so many from the left because that's what's telling. We know that Trump supporters are going to stick with, Trump. It's when the other side criticizes as they have now, and you see it's slowly falling apart for them.
Right.
Which now they're questioning the entire Harris campaign strategy. Well, you should have done it months ago when we did.
Yeah, exactly.
866-98-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
Red Eye Radio, he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Here was a particularly strong point for Vance last night, and a very, very weak point for Walz. You see his facial movements when they were talking about his head turning. You could tell he was panicking. Now, this is all based on the fact that Walz has said that the First Amendment does not protect misinformation or hate speech.
Right.
Which, of course, it does. Watch how this goes. Here we go.
Tim, I'm focused on the future. Did Kamala Harris censor Americans from speaking their mind in the wake of the 2020 COVID situation?
That is a damning non-answer.
It's a damning non-answer for you to not talk about censorship. Obviously, Donald Trump and I think that there were problems in 2020. We've talked about it. I'm happy to talk about it further. But you guys attack us for not believing in democracy. The most sacred right under the United States democracy is the First Amendment. You yourself have said there's no First Amendment right to misinformation. Kamala Harris wants to use the power of government and big tech to silence people from speaking their minds. That is a threat to democracy that will long outlive this present political moment. I would like Democrats and Republicans to both reject censorship. Let's persuade one another. Let's argue about ideas, and then let's come together afterwards.
You can't yell fire in a crowded theater. That's the test. That's the Supreme Court test.
Tim, fire in a crowded theater. You guys wanted to kick people off of Facebook for saying that toddlers shouldn't wear masks.
Senator, the governor does have the floor.
Fire in a crowded theater. That is criticizing the policies of the government, which is the right of every American. Tim,
there you go.
Yeah. Well, and look, it was a great moment for J.D. Vance, but also a very telling moment. I mean, you may have missed it. But when Tim Walz basically is saying, there's basically no First Amendment right, he said, to hate speech. Actually, there is.
Or misinformation.
Or misinformation. There actually is. We can despise, if someone is a white supremacist, we can despise that person. They have a right to say that they hate certain types of people. And that's what the First Amendment, in part, is all about, in fact. It's about saying things other people disagree with and being protected from the government punishing you. The left has come out in recent days saying the government should punish you for misinformation, and they're going to be the ones that decide what hate speech and misinformation is. We can look at the KKK and know who they are when it comes to hate speech. We know what the hate speech is under a conventional definition. What's the definition as outlined by the liberal left? Well, things that they disagree with.
Well, if you
not using the right pronouns,
right?
Those are the things they want to punish. They want to put you in jail for saying the wrong pronoun. If you challenge them, if you talk about the lab leak theory or have a discussion about COVID, you should be punished by the government for not speaking the way they tell you to speak. That's what Tim Walz believes. He just admitted it. And it was a great moment by J.D. Vance. I wish there was more time spent on it, but, that was in the second half of the debate. But it was a good moment.
Yeah, he got in because we had said that there's two things, and that's why, one of the reasons that you see Trump in a number of polls leading Harris on who would better protect democracy. Right. Because we've seen the weaponization of government. We've seen the fact that, and they've been blunt the last week, Democrats have. Mm-hmm. They don't believe in the First Amendment.
Right.
Absolutely blunt. Right. And Walz has been blunt on that. And that's terrifying when you hear that. That, okay, no, that, Hillary started it. That, there ought to be criminal charges for misinformation and hate speech. And Walz believes the exact same thing. And even made it known because when he was saying misinformation and then he yelled, and hate speech, you could hear him say that.
Yeah, right.
And hate speech, too. It doesn't. You don't even know the damn Constitution.
Right.
You have no idea what it is.
Right.
You don't even know what the First Amendment protects.
And they don't care.
When it comes to speech. No, they don't care.
They don't care. They just want to change it, and they want to punish people for, again, using the wrong pronoun or having a discussion on a lab leak theory when it came to COVID. All these things, they believe it. You've heard them. In fact, they're out in numbers over the last month. The queen of misinformation, the one that was responsible for the Russian hoax, believes people should go to jail for misinformation.
And not only did she lie, but she created the lie with campaign money.
Right.
Observing and analyzing the insanity. Eric Harley and Gary McNamara. Nightly on Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. All right, more. Are you ready?
All right.
You ready? More audio cuts? Oh, by the way, download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose.
Yeah, do that.
All right. So here's Geraldo on News Nation.
Okay.
This had to kill him to say this.
There is no doubt in my mind, however Governor Walz did in terms of sincerity, that Vance won this debate. Why did Vance win this debate? For the same reason that Cheney trounced Lieberman when they debated, or Kennedy trounced Nixon when they debated, because they were not the stereotypes. Walz did come across as the substitute teacher, being up against, dealing with the snotty, sharp kid in the class. But Vance didn't just take that stereotype. Vance proved himself to be someone who could moderate his tone, who could be agreeable where necessary. He wasn't the wicked, aggressive stereotype that the mainstream media has made him out to be. So Vance, to me, propelled, as Cheney did and as Kennedy did, I think Vance propelled himself. And believe me, I don't particularly care for 90% of his policies. And I think Governor Walz is a very, very sweet guy, nice guy, apparently been a good governor and congressman and so forth. But this is business. And I think that in terms of the business of who wins a debate, it's a vice presidential debate, the only one. And, you're nice, okay, maybe this, maybe that. Where was, I think that Vance emerged absolutely unscathed. And I think Walz tread water.
The funny thing is, because where he's right on is where he said he did not fit the stereotype that the media created, which was, number one, a false stereotype.
Right.
That's the problem.
Right.
It was a false stereotype of him, and he proved, again, gave another reason for the American public to look at the mainstream media and go, okay, they don't tell us the truth, do they? This guy can argue in a civil way, and he can make great points.
Right. Look, if you've been living under a rock and you had no exposure to J.D. Vance in long form, right? For it's a little bit long. the debate's a little bit long. But if you've only looked at sound bites that have been heavily edited at times by the media, or seen still shots and a partial quote which is taken out of context, making him the bad guy, and you tune in last night to see, all right, who are these two guys and what's this all about, and who are they really? You were probably tuned out after the first half hour because of Tim Walz and his negative body language. It was just really bad. It was beyond nervous. He just seemed completely like a fish out of water. He was just, and what you saw in J.D. Vance all the way through, consistent, confident. He came across as nice. He wasn't condescending. Those are the things that you look at and you go, oh, wait a minute. Why? How is he the bad guy? Is he only the bad guy because he's on Trump's campaign?
And I want to play this here. Let's start playing some from the conservative media or the conservative / populist media.
Right, yeah.
As it's become.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Because that's where the Republican Party is going. That's for another day, another discussion.
Yeah.
But this is J.D. Vance on with Sean Hannity. And first off, Sean's got a lot of gray hair. I was looking at the still of the video. I didn't know who it was. They're like, Sean Hannity asked a question. I'm like, where's Sean? Oh, that is Sean. But you've had a number of people say it. We said it, but I'm being serious, and I think it may come off as a joke, but I think that Vance is also serious when he says, to be fair about Tim Walz, that he had a very tough job. He's got to defend the policies of Harris. And we've said that. We started out the show by saying that. Look, the guy's got an impossible job.
Yeah.
He's got to defend stuff that he doesn't believe at all.
Right.
None of it.
Right.
Of the, all the positions she's taken. And then he knows what the polls are. He knows he can't convince the American public about what people really believe their radicalism is. Here it's part of this. Here we go.
Tim Walz seemed very nervous tonight. Now, I kind of walked away with the impression, I guess maybe this is the reason he doesn't do interviews. He seemed, did it come across as nervous to you?
Honestly, I didn't notice it, man. Adrenaline's going so much. I was nervous. I do a lot of these interviews, Sean, but I was nervous. It's the biggest stage of my life. So I didn't focus so much on his demeanor. I just tried to focus on what he was saying. And look, to be fair to Tim Walz, he had a very tough job, and that is to defend the policies of Kamala Harris.
This is a great
that
moment
have driven.
For you to bring that up. Yeah, which he did have a tough job.
He does. And look, it's Kamala Harris has done this. Her policy failures have made food, housing, energy unaffordable. We just need a change in this country. We need to get back to the common sense leadership of Donald Trump. I'm not surprised that Tim couldn't defend that record. Who could? If you put me on that debate stage, I mean, you clearly think I did a good job. I hope that I did a good job. But if you asked me to defend Kamala Harris's record, I'd melt into a puddle because there is no defending what she's done the last 3.5 years.
So there's a little bit to unpack from that. It's one of those. That's the nicest backhanded compliment I've ever heard. Because I wouldn't have been so kind. And he's pointing out the obvious, and that is, well, don't blame Tim Walz. Of course we can, and we do. But it's what you would expect from J.D. Vance. And I think it's actually a great point. Tell me who in the world could defend it. It was, but I think also it shows that he's a horrible pick. He's a horrible pick. She was a horrible pick for Veep. and
they've both been horrible picks. Remember.
Exactly.
There was no voting.
No choosing.
Right, no choosing here.
Yeah. And that's the thing is that when you look at how all this was laid out, you wonder how we got here without one vote. That's how we got here. Both of them. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz got to that ticket without one vote. Without one. Not one. That's where we are. That's why this is a mess. If you're a Democrat rank and file, and you're looking at this going, what in the world? Oh, well, it comes down to the fact that, well, you guys elected Biden. Biden wasn't competent ever. And then his cognitive issues added to the great concern. She was not ever once called the one or the future of the party. In fact, one of the first people I remember hearing say that she's the future of the party was Karine Jean-Pierre. That's how bad it is. And we know this. We go back. We played the audio not too long ago. It goes back 2-3 weeks. We played the audio from September of 23. Now, well over a year ago, when Anderson Cooper was talking to a guest and going, yeah, but come on, isn't she a drag on the ticket? This was long before they were considering forcing Joe to stand down. They were talking about how she's a drag on the ticket and maybe he should choose someone else to run with him. That's how much she wasn't the one. And that's why we are where we are. If you're a Democrat rank and file, this is why your party is where it is, because nobody asked you.
I'm reading here, Ramaswamy tweeted out after the debate, Trump picked a VP who has independent thoughts and can hold his own under fire. Kamala could have picked any one of a number of capable Democrats. I might debate that with Mr. Ramaswamy as VP, but refused to do so, likely due to her insecurity. And the machine went along with it because they'd rather have a VP that they can control anyway.
Right.
Yeah. I just, that just goes to something that you had brought up before. And I did see a meme after the debate. And it showed Obama, and it said, I need a vice president who's dumber than me. And then it shows Biden.
Right.
And then Biden saying, I need a vice president who's dumber than me. And then there's Harris.
Yeah.
And then there's, next to Harris, I need a VP who's dumber than me. And there's Walz.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, my God.
Well, see, I mean, and it makes you wonder, I mean, is that the play? Well, the problem with that play is that at some point you may have to make a decision where that person that you picked has to do something more than just being the border czar of your broken border, which is to do nothing, sit back and watch people walk across. This mess is, in fact, now I'm starting to think, well, my gosh, maybe it's not as big as it could have been. When you look at all of the things that went down to get us where we are with the Democratic Party in its current state, it doesn't look as bad as I would think when you lay all of that out, if you were to lay all those events out on paper chronologically. I might look at it and go, well, I mean, so far, nothing is actually on fire.
Have you seen any comment from Serpent?
No.
James Carville I'm talking about.
He may be crying and hugging football players. I don't know.
Anything from Cuban last night?
I didn't see anything. And I was on X during the debate. So he may have done something and I missed it. I don't know how I'd miss it, but I didn't see anything. So, I mean, I may have missed it while I was actually watching the debate. It's funny because I like being able to minimize the screen and go to social media.
Nothing from Cuban.
Nothing. Yeah. Okay.
Nothing.
Yeah, I didn't.
Cuban
I didn't see anything, but yeah, I didn't. I was only watching on X, following along on X, and watching the debate on YouTube. So it's, but it's, what do you say? What have we played this morning? We've been playing, except for what we just heard from Fox News and J.D. Vance talking to Sean. Primarily, we've been playing the left and their reaction.
Yeah.
And what did you not hear? Tim Walz won this debate hands down. You didn't hear that. You're hearing, okay, yeah, but from now on, gloves off. Or maybe he needs to hug more football players and cry more.
Or if he agrees with Vance on everything, why are they running?
Exactly.
That came on MSNBC.
You did not hear, oh, he won the debate without question. There may be a few people out there, but we're playing what rose to the top in terms of the liberal activists in these newsrooms and what they're saying. And we're doing that for a reason, because they represent the far left and the liberal base of the Democratic Party. And you're not hearing any of them say, oh, no, he definitely won. Look, you and I don't pick, and we never have been in the business in all the years we've been doing this, of picking winners and losers out of debate. I mean, at the end of it, the winners and losers are decided on Election Day. How many people did you convince during that debate and all along the way that your policies are going to be best, that people can trust you to implement those policies and that they will benefit America the most?
866-90-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. We feel like DJs tonight. We're just playing the hottest hits from last night.
All right, coming up, we got I can't say commercial-free hour. There will be commercials, but lots more hits. We're just playing the hits, everybody.
Yes, because this is Talktober.
It's Talktober.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across the USA, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
All right, more audio. Keep playing the hits. This is News Nation and Chris Cuomo. All right? Just so you know, Chris Cuomo, not a Republican.
No.
I want to make that very clear.
Right.
Not a Republican.
Right.
When they were talking, at one point, Vance wanted to correct something about how Haitians got into this country. And he was right, and the moderators wouldn't let him correct it. It's very interesting.
Margaret, thank you. Senator, we have so much to get to.
Margaret, I think it's important
We're
because...
going to turn out of the economy. Thank
Margaret,
you.
the rules were that
The
you guys
economy,
weren't going to fact check. And since you're fact checking me, I think it's important to say what's actually going on.
Thank you, Senator.
Facilitation of illegal... immigration, Margaret, by
Thank
our
you,
own
Senator, for
leadership.
describing the legal
And
process. We have so much to get to, Senator.
Those
We have
laws
so
have been on
much.
the books since 1990.
Thank you, gentlemen.
The
We want to
CBP
have.
app has not been on the books since 1990. It's something that Kamala Harris created, Margaret.
Gentlemen, the audience can't hear you because your mics are cut.
Well, there you have it. And look, Vance was right. Okay? There's nuance to it. But the bigger problem is why he was moved on. We've got so much to get to. This is who? You know what I mean? Like, what is the schedule here? So you have a list of topics? That's not what it's about. It's about how the American people can access these two men and the two theories and the narratives, and you've got to let them have their speak, because now you created a story where you're the problem, which
MSNBC called mansplaining.
Yeah, exactly.
So is Chris Cuomo mansplaining? Now, we did have to ask the question when MSNBC accused him of mansplaining. Were they talking about his relationship to the moderators
or to Tim Walz?
We're not sure. Again, this is we wouldn't be asking this question if it wasn't for what the left has been attempting to instruct us, whether it's gender roles, whether it's masculinity. We're asking questions based on what they do. We would never delve into these topics. We'd simply say, where do you stand on the issue? Where do you stand on the issue? We wouldn't look at it and say, well, you know, JD, you now look a lot more masculine with that beard.
Yeah.
Because you look too young without that beard.
Yeah.
And look, Governor Walz, with your hands flying in the air, where you look like Richard Simmons dancing, strutting, what was it, to the oldies? What was it again?
Yeah, sweating to the oldies.
Sweating to the oldies, and the fact...
Or as we call it, a Green Day concert.
Yeah. and Governor Walz, the Democratic Party, trying to figure out what end of the masculinity scale that you are on, and Jen Psaki wanting you to cry more and let you free. What is your position? No, we'd simply say, JD, what's your position? Tim, what's your position? That's it.
If JD Vance, if former President Trump and JD Vance are not victorious on November 5th, you won't see me, reaching out to Senator Vance saying, listen, why didn't you cry more and hug more football players?
Trump needs to cry more.
He needs to cry more. He didn't cry. He didn't cry when he got shot. Wow.
Yeah, remember he was criticized? Look at that showboat moment.
Yeah, exactly.
Gets up with the American flag behind him and everything else with his fist in the air, just like Hitler.
If you've ever heard the sound of a bullet, I always think of that day, because if you ever hear the sound of a bullet whizzing nearby, it will change your life. Can you imagine it grazing your ear? And if not for you tilting your head in the last fraction of a second and tilting it a fraction of an inch, it would have ended differently. I'd still be on the ground crying. And he stood up and pumped his fists into the air and said, fight, fight.
I'd still be drunk.
Yeah.
Well, remember, that was viewed as aggressive.
Exactly.
See Trump promoting violence
Right,
again,
right.
saying fight, fight, fight.
Right.
My God, he just got shot.
Yes, exactly. How dare you? You could hurt the assassin's feelings.
I thought this was one of Vance's strong moments, because the way he used to think about Donald Trump and the way he thinks about Trump now. And we had stated way back when he said this the first time, that could be particularly effective in this campaign when people are looking for people that, not sure what's going on, and I don't like what Harris and Biden are doing, and I'm open to Trump. You and I both said early on when he said this, and he repeated again last night, that this could be very, very effective.
Well, first of all, Margaret, because I've always been open. And sometimes, of course, I've disagreed with the president, but I've also been extremely open about the fact that I was wrong about Donald Trump. I was wrong, first of all, because I believed some of the media stories that turned out to be dishonest fabrications of his record. But most importantly, Donald Trump delivered for the American people. Rising wages, rising take-home pay, an economy that worked for normal Americans, a secure southern border, a lot of things, frankly, that I didn't think he'd be able to deliver on. And yeah, when you screw up, when you misspeak, when you get something wrong and you change your mind, you ought to be honest with the American people about it. It's one of the reasons, Margaret, why I've done so many interviews is because I think it's important to actually explain to the American people where I come down on the issues and what changed. Now, you pointed out to messages from 2020. Margaret, I've been extremely consistent that I think there were a lot of things that we could have done better in the Trump administration in the first round if Congress was doing its job. I strongly believe, and I've been a United States Senator, that Congress is not just a high-class debating society. It's not just a forum for senators and congressmen to whine about problems. It's a forum to govern. So there were a lot of things on the border, on tariffs, for example, where I think that we could have done so much more if the Republican Congress and the Democrats in Congress had been a little bit better about how they govern the country. They were so obsessed with impeaching Donald Trump, they couldn't actually govern. And I want to talk about this tariff issue in particular, Margaret, because Tim just accused this of being a national sales tax. Look, the one thing, and you're probably surprised to hear me praising Joe Biden, but the one thing that Joe Biden did is he continued some of the Trump tariffs that protected American manufacturing jobs. And it's the one issue, the most pro-worker part of the Biden administration, it's the one issue where Kamala Harris has run away from Joe Biden's record. Think about this. If you're trying to employ slave laborers in China at $3 a day, you're going to do that and undercut the wages of American workers unless our country stands up for itself and says you're not accessing our markets unless you're paying middle-class Americans a fair wage.
There you go.
Yeah.
Whatever a fair wage is.
Right.
That's a Democrat point, by the way. Shh.
Yeah.
Because what's a fair wage?
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's like, what's your fair share in taxes? What's a fair wage? So,
right.
But no, again, we'll deal with the tariffs. And like I said, with China, it's a whole different ballgame with us on tariffs. That's not the point, though. The point is he was able to point out how on something, because the American public, the American public was pro-spending, too, until we got inflation.
Right.
The American public is pro-tariffs also now.
Right.
And until it starts hurting the economy.
Mm-hmm.
Because one thing that you notice is when they talk about tariffs, they talk about, well, inflation didn't go through the roof. What did we talk about with the tariffs, the steel tariffs particularly? The loss of jobs in industries that relied on that steel. Now, the cost didn't go up because the tariffs were limited, but you lose jobs because of it.
Yeah.
You lose American jobs because of it.
Right.
And that's what happens. And Wall Street Journal actually laid it all out, how many specific jobs were lost in the industries that relied on steel once the steel tariffs went in.
Right.
But inflation, did it skyrocket just because of that? No. Did price increases happen? Yes. Did they cause inflation? No, we always have inflation, but we didn't have massive inflation, which comes from, as we know, the massive inflation always comes from the federal government and bad monetary policy.
Right.
Too many dollars chasing too few.
Right.
So to sit there and talk about the tariffs and did it increase prices? Yes. Did it cause inflation? No, it didn't cause rapid inflation. Did it cause a tiny bit of inflation? It had to if prices went up.
Yeah, it has an effect.
But you also know it had the effect because people lost jobs because you protect one industry, which means they can raise the price a little bit, and it hurts all the industries down the line that rely on that American product, and those are American businesses also.
Right.
And so, but that's not the point. The point is to show Kamala Harris's hypocrisy, because J.D. Vance believes in tariffs.
Yeah,
and he's been clear on that for a while. Mm-hmm, so he may be more pro-tariff than Trump is.
Yeah, right.
But you can see in that point that Walz didn't have an answer. His face was blank.
Yeah, again, if you go by the body language alone, and you'll see some of that analysis, the body language. You don't need the analysis of the body language. People know what they're looking at when they see it.
I think the most important part of it, though, is where he said, I disagree with Trump. You said some, bad things about Trump. Yep, and I was wrong. And here's why I was wrong.
Right.
And he didn't say it was wrong. He said why he was wrong.
I mentioned yesterday or day
that
before that that was likely going to be brought up. And because I'm going through in my mind, all right, where do you come in and disarm J.D. Vance? Where he hasn't already disarmed those points against him that have been brought up by the media. By the way, part of the advantage of being out there all the time talking in the media is, number one, he's good at it. But number two, he's disarmed all this stuff that was going to be brought up in the debate by debate night. Tim Vance hasn't done that. It's why Tim Vance looked beyond nervous, because they've been running from the media. Tim Walz, did I say Tim Vance? Tim Walz has been running from the media. J.D. Vance, and in fact, J.D. Vance has been out there just as much as Trump has. J.D. Vance isn't hiding. Do you remember what Mike Pence did in 2016 or in 2020? I mean, do you remember him being a surrogate the way J.D. Vance is a surrogate in 2024?
No, I've never seen anyone that's running for vice president be as decisive and blunt as J.D. Vance.
Right.
And as good of a surrogate for
and
Trump.
Available and making himself, I mean, he's everywhere. He's running to the media. The spin, what do they call it? The spin room after the debates. I was waiting for J.D. Vance to show up there. He may have. I didn't see it anywhere. But the night of the debate between Trump and Kamala Harris, the New York Times headline, Donald Trump shows up in the spin room right after the debate himself. The point being, he's not running from the media. J.D. Vance certainly isn't running from the media.
Well, no, there was already the side-by-side of Walz going to get pizza and J.D. Vance staying in the spin room.
Yeah.
Going to the spin room and answering questions.
Right.
So
I just didn't see it as the headline from, like a New York Times. But, of course, they're going to do that. They're going to make themselves available because they want to convince Americans that they're best for the job. It's what you do when you're running for president. But think about this. We're going to go get pizza. It's the Biden move. I'm going to go get ice cream.
Ice cream.
I'm just going to ice cream. I got ice cream for you, Tim Walz. Kamala, I got ice cream. I got you an ice cream.
Remember in 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019 that you and I were getting bombarded with criticism by Trump supporters because we said that it's not just Trump, but the Republican Party needs to communicate effectively because communicating a message is everything. Communicating, which means tone, style, and substance, all of it. And we were criticized severely.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's what J.D. Vance brings. He can communicate effectively on the issues. What has been so frustrating for us with Republicans, and more so, I think Trump's learned a lot since that time, but still, Vance is the best communicator I've seen from any Republican.
He doesn't flinch. We've said this about Trump with everything thrown at him. He doesn't flinch. But on a debate stage, you can't flinch because, and this is the problem I've seen with pretty much everybody I've seen on a debate stage. I can say that you see them get in the defensive posture and they start sounding nervous, and that makes them look like they're on the ropes. Well, that was Tim Walz for most of the debate last night. But I haven't seen that in J.D. Vance yet.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on compliance, safety, accountability. Compliance, Safety, Accountability, or CSA, is the FMCSA Safety, Compliance, and Enforcement Program. Its goal is to hold motor carriers and drivers accountable for highway safety and to reduce crashes, injuries, and fatalities on our roads. CSA does this by assessing the safety performance of motor carriers and drivers based on data collected during roadside inspections, crash reports, and FMCSA investigations. Based on the data that is compiled, motor carriers are assigned a score. The carrier is then grouped with other carriers who have had a similar number of safety events. Carrier scores within the group are then ranked to determine intervention priority. Low scores are better, so carriers with the highest scores are those that are most likely to be targeted for intervention by the FMCSA. Interventions range in severity and may include warning letters, roadside, off-site, or on-site inspections, civil penalties, or operation out-of-service orders. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller & Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Let's go to Chris in Nashville. Chris, welcome. You're on Red Eye Radio. Hi. Hello, Chris. Chris is not there.
All right.
All right. Says Chris wanted to say, never seen this lack of professionalism from moderators. It gives journalism a bad name, is what he wanted to say. Well, you didn't watch the last debate.
Yeah, there are very few journalists left in the world. These aren't journalists.
And number two, yes, thank you for that. Oh, let me turn away from the microphone. Ah! And that's because we've dealt with this, I don't know, for decades. They're not journalists. Stop pretending they're journalists. They are radical leftist activists. Do not call them journalists. Do not say they should be ashamed of themselves for not protecting the high standards of journalism. They're not journalists. Do you call a plumber an electrician? No. Don't call these radical left political activists journalists. They're not journalists.
Yep, they're activists, and this is how they see themselves. Remember when the whole thing came down with BuzzFeed, and this was at the beginning of the Russian hoax thing and the dossier, and publishing the dossier in BuzzFeed, and the editor at BuzzFeed said, "Well, even though we put a disclaimer and said we can't prove any of this is true, we have no idea how much of this and this whole dossier thing is true. This is what we see our writers. This is the role we see them in." Going forward.
Aren't they bankrupt?
Oh, that's right.
Aren't
They're
they
gone now.
Oh, okay. Just
yeah.
How'd that work
Funny
out
how
for
that
them?
works or doesn't.
Windmills and solar panels. Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose if you can't listen live overnight. All right, when you had Vance come out and say that he was very appreciative and talked about the Democrats that have, come over to his side, and mentioned Tulsi Gabbard and mentioned, Robert Kennedy Jr. And so Tim Walz and his response. You ready?
All right.
The support of the democracy matters. It matters that you're here. And I'm as surprised as anybody of this coalition that Kamala Harris has built, from Bernie Sanders to Dick Cheney to Taylor Swift.
You could have stopped at Dick Cheney. Probably.
Like, oh, my God.
Because it doesn't come off as serious at all. Nobody cares what Taylor Swift thinks politically. Nobody. Wow.
All right, going through more audio. We've got so much audio. I feel like a DJ tonight.
Playing the hits.
Yeah. Here is one of the people of the focus group listening on that was interviewed on NBC News. Okay, here we go.
All right.
You think Biden has done nothing for the economy, is what you said to us.
Yeah, I just don't think he's done a good job. So I've always been sort of socially liberal and fiscally conservative. I thought that under Trump, we were actually in a very good place.
So voting Trump, you're
voting
pretty
Trump,
decided.
Last election, we were in a very good place before COVID happened, and so. But just now, it's just out of hand. I mean, it's out of hand right now.
What does it mean in 2024 to be fiscally conservative and socially liberal?
Yeah, I've got a lot of questions there myself. I don't know.
Because I'm fiscally conservative but socially liberal. So you believe that government should continue the spending that has created the inflation and calling yourself a fiscal conservative at that point?
Right.
Or is it just your pro-abortion?
Right.
Are you for, because I'm social liberal. Does that mean you believe in critical race theory? Do you believe in identity politics, that we judge people by groups and not individuals?
Do you believe in the liberal transgender movement and where they want to go with that, with children?
Right.
Yeah, I have a ton of questions there.
Yeah. So we're not going to get him answered because it was just an audio cut.
Yeah.
He's not, but I just thought about that. I go, what does that mean in 2024? Does that have any meaning whatsoever? Another, I think, very good moment for Vance last night was this on the economy.
That's it. I'll give you 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, you're going to hear a lot from Tim Walz this evening, and you just heard it in the answer, a lot of what Kamala Harris proposes to do. And some of it, I'll be honest with you, it even sounds pretty good. Here's what you won't hear, is that Kamala Harris has already done it. Because she's been the vice president for 3.5 years. She had the opportunity to enact all of these great policies. And what she's actually done instead is drive the cost of food higher by 25%, drive the cost of housing higher by about 60%, open the American southern border and make middle-class life unaffordable for a large number of Americans. If Kamala Harris has such great plans for how to address middle-class problems, then she ought to do them now, not when asking for a promotion, but in the job the American people gave her 3.5 years ago. And the fact that she...
There you go. Effective.
Yep. Yeah. I don't know, I mean, again, you can look back at every minute of it and we could certainly pick everything apart. But again, I didn't expect them to be able to disarm him, J.D. Vance. And that's because he had already walked in having disarmed any of the questions that might come up.
This was on Iran. Here we go.
Well, first of all, Margaret, diplomacy is not a dirty word, but I think that's something that Governor Walz just said is quite extraordinary. You yourself just said Iran is as close to a nuclear weapon today as they have ever been. And Governor Walz, you blame Donald Trump. Who has been the vice president for the last 3.5 years? And the answer is your running mate, not mine. Donald Trump consistently made the world more secure. Now, we talk about the sequence of events that led us to where we are right now, and you can't ignore October the 7th, which I appreciate Governor Walz bringing up. But when did Iran and Hamas and their proxies attack Israel? It was during the administration of Kamala Harris. So Governor Walz can criticize Donald Trump's tweets, but effective, smart diplomacy and peace through strength is how you bring stability back to a very broken world. Donald Trump has already done it once before. Ask yourself at home, when was the last time, I'm 40 years old, when was the last time that an American president didn't have a major conflict break out? The only answer is during the 4 years that Donald Trump was president.
Wow. Yeah, there you have it. I mean, on on all of the issues, you really had to get into the lies about Donald Trump for there to be, and also the lies set up by the moderators. One of the lies being that housing prices caused inflation. Wow. Okay, great. Where do you even go with that? J.D. Vance didn't have an opportunity to totally disarm that, to tear that apart. But it was government spending that caused inflation.
Yeah.
It was the driver. And you don't have to ask us. Ask the liberal economist that was an advisor to Obama, who warned them that that kind of spending was going to catapult inflation. And it did. We know.
Let us go to Tom in Illinois. Tom, welcome. You're on Red Eye Radio. Welcome to the show. Hi.
Yeah, hi, guys. One thing I've noticed about this Walz guy, the governor of Minnesota, he's extremely clumsy in his presentation of anything. You know, he reminds me of a left-wing bully at a bar who's drunk and disorderly, and everybody is kind of like looking at him like it's time for you to leave.
No, I know.
Impression of him?
I know what you're saying. I mean, the number one, the over exuberance. I mean, when he comes in, as when we first saw him come in, I forgot. I think it was after the DNC, and they had some type of event. He came in and he was twirling around and dancing. And we're like, okay, that's over the top. You know, you don't need to be Richard, Simmons in this particular thing. But I understand what you mean. The joy and the happiness, which then can turn to, when you get to serious issues, clumsiness and at times rage. But I would say it was more clumsy than rage. He really doesn't throw out a lot. You could tell he was furious today at a lot of stuff J.D. Vance was saying. But I think that's also because he knew he couldn't come up with an answer.
Yeah, the whole mind your own business thing that he did going back weeks ago, but he looks like a guy who's not confident but is also angry. He does look frustrated. So the caller is right in that regard. Looks like somebody who doesn't really have control of themselves. If you want to compare that to somebody who's drunk and overly aggressive, it's because he doesn't have the confidence.
Well, and I'll go back to it again. He doesn't have the confidence. I agree with Vance again on this. The position that he's in. Think about it. Your job is to defend the Biden administration over the last 3.5 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
On the economy and on the border.
Right.
And then you have to defend the current administration, and then at the same time justify that your presidential nominee who picked you, maybe she didn't, maybe it was others who picked you, who knows?
Yeah.
Who picked you, has flip-flopped on all the major issues that Donald Trump owns, and you in a debate not being good at being cross-examined on simple questions from liberal reporters are going to have to face the opposition, who is very well prepared and knows what your situation is. If that was me, I'd walk in pretty damn nervous too. If I had to walk in the show every day and they have to say, Gary, look, you've got to take positions that you don't believe.
Yeah.
That's a hard thing to do.
Right.
And that's what you saw in the media. Well, you saw that in the media. The media is furious now because they understand the situation that he was in, and now they're saying, well, he's got to be angrier. The whole joy thing might have been a mistake, and this whole civility thing with Republicans, that may have been a mistake. And if you end up saying you agree with most things that J.D. Vance is about, then why are you running? Those are all things said by the most liberal media members after the debate last night.
Right.
That's the thing. It's not that he's just genuinely clumsy. He might be, but I don't think that's what's going on in these debates. That's not why they have basically gone silent except for friendly interviews. It's not why he has done fewer interviews than she's done. It's the fact that they know they can't defend what they really believe, and they can't defend the fact that they've pretended on the major issues to now agree with Trump. But in agreeing with Trump, they're nothing, and criticizing Trump and demonizing him for the positions that he has held, which now they hold, but they can't defend the fact that they're not evil too.
Yeah, right.
And they know it.
Yep. It's at a point now where, and that's the other thing too, not only does Tim Walz have to lie about what he believes, he also has to get in line with what Kamala Harris is lying about, what she believes. Those are,
Exactly.
So you're having to get in and tell somebody else's lie. That would be, well, for me and for everybody, it should be impossible.
And I think this is a direct result of how Obama won.
Yeah.
He didn't have to explain anything.
Right.
He simply went hope and change.
Right.
Imagery, pure imagery and symbolism.
And the media started painting the canvas themselves. Here's what it means.
Right.
Here's what it means.
I remember late talk show host used to say, Democrats are symbolism over substance.
Mm-hmm.
The late Rush Limbaugh, rest in peace.
Mm-hmm.
He said that and it's exactly what, and they don't know what to do. Symbolism isn't enough anymore. It's about the issues because, as we've said, liberalism has hit the wall of reality.
It's no longer in the abstract. The symbolism thing you could float around in the good times, but now you can't. You can't do that anymore because reality is hitting hard every single day. You need to have answers. And they don't.
They're still trying to get along with the symbolism. Think about it. Think about the symbolism they're throwing out. The symbolism is even so weak. Joy, happiness. Those guys are angry. We're joyful. And then the whole masculinity thing, which again has gone from the one far end stereotype of a man is with a gun and camouflage and a hat to the other one is a man is more wimpy and sensitive.
And should cry more.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
I mean,
and make mistakes.
They don't know the symbolism. You know something? It's really, you know why it's so bad for Democrats? The symbolism now sucks.
Yeah.
They can't even do symbolism right anymore.
Right. No, they can't.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. You know, the number of people in the media that said they misjudged J.D. Vance, I mean, now, months later after he has been the nominee, means they haven't even paid attention. I see Frank Luntz here.
Yeah.
I misjudged J.D. Vance. He really is a good communicator and great debater. That means he hasn't watched any of the interviews that he has been doing.
And you would have to be going out of your way to avoid them.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's done so many.
Right.
And for Frank Luntz, in doing what Frank Luntz does, you absolutely have to be closing your eyes and wearing blinders.
Were you surprised at all?
No.
No, neither was I.
I said it yesterday.
Yeah, we knew this was going to happen.
I didn't expect anything less from J.D. Vance. He's been nothing showed me that he was going to fail on that debate stage.
Right.
This is Red Eye Radio. on Westwood One.